Rasheed. I am president of Roots Community Film, which is an organization based on education. And education from the standpoint that particularly the youth are empowered through self-esteem. We have a situation, I believe, in the world, whereas people have great ideas, great concepts, however, they don't have the inner self power to expose it, to develop it, to take it to another level. So what Roots Community Film basically do, or has done over the years, we've been in existence, 501c3 number, for about 35 years now, and we use different mediums to achieve our goal. One of the mediums that we have used is homeless shelters, whereas we have the youth working with the elderly, and what we would actually do is establish a situation whereas the elderly and the young youth would get together and feed the homeless. So it's like the elderly empowering the youth through knowledge and experience, and the youth respecting the elders, and this like conjunction just creates a situation whereas it's like fertile ground to grow, and it's a very interesting thing. The other thing that medium that we use is public access TV. That's the media aspect, and we had a show, or have a show, myself and others. The host is a co-founder, Jim Hill, who is an educator, an artist, and many other things. However, this show, myself and others, was on for about 13 years, and then we expanded and ran into a beautiful young lady. You heard a little bit about her. In fact, she's the one who put this thing together, and that's PJ. And presently we have a program on BCAT and what is it, Queen? No, Manhattan Cable. And what we're doing is the name of her TV show is Brown Eyes. Brown Eyes TV, which she mentioned a little thing about the magazines, but it's basically the same thing. Bringing information to empower people to establish their goals and center themselves so that they can collaborate with other folks and get an understanding, because it doesn't really matter so much in terms of if the person wants to develop the community, if they want to develop themselves individually, if they want to collectively interact with other entities. The thing is, if you don't have the self-esteem, you can't do anything. You could have a degree, you could have great ideas, but if you can't speak, if you're afraid to, get out there and make that move, it doesn't really mean anything, in terms of the collective, because like bees, like ants, and other things in society, they all work together. They all know what they're supposed to do, maybe by osmosis, since I can't speak analogy or biology, but just observing them, somehow they seem to get their stuff together and do what they have to do to have a community. So basically, what I'm trying to say is we're trying to develop within the individual that concept, whereas they can interact based on what they have achieved inside and what they are comfortable with, and then bringing it forward. so we can get more into that. I hope that was a nice introduction to what we do.
It reminds me of Marcus Garvey that said, if you don't have confidence, then you already lost before you started. Yes. You already lost the race before you started.
Yes.
So with that, our talking points for the panelists is to really describe what media is. It takes on a lot of different mediums, forms, shapes, and this time to 2013. So we just wanted to get more in depth on, what media is, because it does mean different things to different people, and we kind of touched on that. And I'll start with Peter on this end for this one.
Okay. I think it's important for for us to see media as ours, a tool for social change that we have control of. So there's a lot of new media now that's available, social media, that I think are very powerful tools that people are using, and I think it's, as I was saying earlier, it's really about a conversation, so that we can connect from one person to another, one person to many people, and we can exchange information, knowledge, inspiration, and really create through that. So I think kind of like the traditional media are also something that we can use, but I really like new social media as a medium that we can create that kind of reclaim our power through that. It's not, it doesn't have that kind of regulations. It's free for the most part, or low cost. So I think it's a really ideal medium for grassroots movements. And like I said, it has such an interactivity that I think is very important. So that's how I see the use of media. And as I was saying earlier too, it's also just person-to-person conversation that I think is very, very vital. And social media, you can have that conversation on a global level at the same time. So, I see that the new media, and the way I see the way in which we claim power is that power now is what I would say is like nomadic. And in other words, it moves in different places. It doesn't stay in one place. I think this is a very vital way that we can reclaim power, because now we can have a conversation across different ideological and geographical lines, that we can come together on certain issues, that we don't have to do things, we don't have to agree on everything, but we have certain things we can agree on that we want to work towards. That's a way we can build global communities. And I think that's through new media.
Media. We use media, and I'm not going to deal with the newspaper, the magazine, TV, internet, and all the other forms that people are using today, or conscious in terms of it being a media form. We also use art, we use dance, we use whatever vehicle to get the message across, so that we can make connections with the larger body of people. Only because today, I guess, well as yesterday, but I can only deal with my time span and what I've read in the past and what I perceive is going to happen in the future, is that if we're not using every form to communicate, which I believe is media, then we're going to lose people or not make the proper connections. For example, right now, most of you are using your ears and your eyes and the brain to understand what's being delivered right now. Some of us are using their ears their eyes, and I'm just going to say by osmosis, other things like vibrations. You know, I like his vibe, I like her vibe. You can't really describe it in the sense that, you know, if I show you a film, no, it's something that's inert, it's inside. In media, I believe that is what media is all about. It's about stirring something inside of you in a communicable form so that you can go to the next level. In other words, you may be missing a piece. You may have everything, as they say, 99.9%, 0.9999. You come into a session, you ride a train, you look at a tree, someone says a powerful word, and that word gives you the 100%. Or you got the information from your grandmother. You know how grandmothers do. They give us information in parables and riddles and what's that all about when you get it. Then 1 year go by and you go, wow, grandma, that was there what she told me. 3 years go by, whoa, the same message. Wow, grandma was deep. 10 years later, you go, I got what she was saying now. You can't tell me nothing now. Grandma was heavy. 20 years, you go, oh my goodness. And what do? After you have grown on that information, you transfer it to others. Now, you could be a great writer. You could be, as these people in the back, videographers. You could be a great speaker. You could be, you know, even running. You know, you watch people run marathons. Have you ever watched that? If you are using the other eyes, you learn about the people. Some people run on their heels, some people run on their toes, some people half run, half walk, and da-da-da-da. But in watching them, you receive something, and that's what I believe media is about. You have to be able to receive something, and so our job, in terms of Roots Community Film, we try to use as many vehicles to communicate to the person that or persons that we're dealing with, so that they can get the message. There's no one way. You know, it's whatever way you can get to their heart. Because when you get to their heart, that means you pass the intellect, you pass all the other walls, because the heart is smart. You know what I mean? The heart is one of the smartest things that we've been blessed with. So that's what we try to go after, because that's where the self-esteem is at. So I would like to go further, but I don't want to. Yes. Okay.
So for me, media, I come to media in a different mindset, because I'm a very creative person, and I got the terminology early on of media products and how people are really creating big business around selling information and communicating information. And I got into media just wanting to really bring something different that wasn't out already. So I came in terms of the platform level, and I ran and got out publications that I'm associated with and been publishing for a while. And creating the platform for others to express themselves is where I see media being, as in terms, and it might be like a little limited kind of view, because I am coming to media with a full vision, and not just falling into what's happening around me. So in terms of platforms, creating meaningful platforms for people to communicate, media is the arena where people can express themselves. There's different types of these media products, especially new out on the market right now. You can see how they've been able to package media with these new websites and different streams, even expanding radio and its reach for online markets. So media to me, it has never been just one thing or another, and it's always been about the expression of people and how they're communicating what's going on in their life. And I've always been kind of on the fence of whether if media is shaping society or it's just a reflection of society. It's like that kind of chicken and the egg question going back and forth. And I would like to describe media, both in my experience and someone that has been engaged in media, as again the platform to exchange ideas and the platform to be creative as well. Because if you are a person in society and you do something, whether it's creating a painting or creating a song, a composition, you have to find a way to get it out there. There has to be a vehicle to move it. And so without it, it would just stay in your house, it would just stay on your mantle, and no one would really be able to appreciate it. And I've been blessed to see different mediums all around the world. I just came back from South Africa, and what I noticed about the media there is that it's way more expressive than it is here. Like the newspapers, and I actually could have bought it. The newspapers are huge, and I think that says something about the society. That here, if a newspaper is this size and you go somewhere else and the newspaper is this size, one, that just shows there's more information being given to that particular community. They have maybe more to say about that particular issue, what they're facing in their lives. So I can't say any more about that, but just to say that society needs media in order for it to grow. So there's a definite there's a connection on how they're going to grow in relation to each other. And I've always been very interested in that. How are people expressing themselves? How is media capturing that and communicating it? So I just have a very expansive view about what media is and these and how media is in relation to life. I hope that I'm explaining that a little well, because I have a very broad view. It's not just magazines, it's not just newspapers, it is everything that's happening that is transferring life. Did I totally confuse you guys, or did I get my point across? Anybody want to say or add anything about media? Because I actually wanted to include you guys in the discussion as well. Every time that we answer something, I would love for you guys to also provide your opinion. So if you want to say anything or add anything more about media, it would be great. Sure,
Okay.
please.
I feel like I've worked with the media a lot. I feel like I'm somewhat good at it. I feel like I've had opportunities where to really change the dialogue about an issue, for example. But even in those instances, just a few years ago, I started getting a sense that we're going to, and my work has primarily been with mainstream media, right? So like I feel like I can write a good press release.
Okay.
But then I started getting this sense a few years ago that the more, and this was while I was with an organization, that the more militant our tactics were getting, the less likely it was that we were going to get that kind of coverage. And there were times when, in my work where we've gotten like huge media coverage, right? The local paper loves us, and that's in general, like that's where I see the dialogue has really changed, is with the more local like papers and the more local reporters who you feel like you have a relationship with, kind of growing relationship with. But anyway, that's been my concern, right? So the more militant the work itself gets, the less coverage the less exposure your work gets. So the solution is, which is like you were talking about, it has to be social media, right? Which I'm less familiar with, but then my concern has always been, well, what are the metrics? Like, sure, we'll do we'll put out stuff about an action on Facebook and try to get all our members to put up, to I don't know what to call it, but grab it or like it or whatever. But what are the metrics on that? I know the metrics of the newspaper, right? If we get an article in the newspaper and it's on the front page, I know that newspaper is distributed to how many, thousands of people. If you get a 5-minute clip on the evening news, I know how many people. Like I can look up the next day how many people watched that. I don't know that with social media. I know how many people liked it, but if it's like 100 people liked it, it doesn't really give me a good sense of whether the media piece of an action was effective.
Because you can like something, you can see something and not like it, but it's still
sure,
exposed.
Yeah. I feel like I've shied away from social media. I've really kind of siloed it as this is a work thing, But I see how other people, for example, treat Facebook, and it's like, this is how they're looking at Facebook. It's like, well, I don't want to be one of those things that they're just like scrolling through, right? When I'm like in charge of doing the media for an action, I want to have an impact, right, on someone. Like I want to, as you were saying, like transferring the life. I really like that phrase, right? Like, how do I transfer the life of an action as it's getting more militant? I guess this is, I don't know, it's a comment to the question.
Is that a question?
It's a comment to the question. I will give one example. In math, that kind of, this was when I started understanding that we're going to get iced out, was during the occupation in Madison. And at the beginning of that, and I'm in the Midwest, at the beginning of that, they got huge mainstream coverage, right? And within a week, I would say, maybe, even less, right? Within days, like it was like most of what you could find out was through social media, right? It was very, very little on mainstream media. And it was deliberate, right? It's like there's no, it's like you can complain about the mainstream media, but there's no need complaining about that, right? It's just like that's their function. Anyway, that to me was a really interesting example of watching that dynamic happen, right? This is really militant. It could get out of hand here. You gotta stop covering it, right? The media, the TV trucks pull out, and the CNN truck goes back to wherever, it's like, and within days. So that's my question with a question with a question. How do we deal with it?
Yeah. So one of the things that I've noticed about social media is that you're right, is impersonal. I have seen them trying to put in different tools for us to use and kind of track what's happening. Like just recently, I think maybe in the last year, that if you have a page on, like a fan page on Facebook, they'll tell you how many people have actually viewed your posts. And they have little statistics and things like that that are, helping us to use the medium a little better. Views on YouTube, anytime someone goes to your link and watches your video, it tracks how many views you've been able to get. But also at the same time, it doesn't, like you said, it doesn't really give you solid numbers on how many people were actually exposed to this. It's still, a gap there. One of the things is that even with however you're using Facebook or social media, it also has to be complemented with something else. If you're just doing social media and things like that, it's not going to be effective in terms of really getting the word out there and affecting people. So the goal is to kind of use, and it's weird now because it makes it a little bit harder because you want to use Facebook, you want to use Twitter, you want to use YouTube, and try to get into the mainstream plug as well. So it's, and also if you get into the mainstream plug and you say, well, this is what we were doing, if you don't have a website, if you don't have at least a Facebook page or a YouTube page, then people won't be able to find you because that's where people are, going to find more information, and it's not, a lot of snail mail is not happening, people are not really calling, they want to go to an internet platform, they want to go to that social media platform to get more information. So it's really twofold. On really using social media effectively I guess is really the question, because so many people are on there, you can't help but at least put a little something on there, even if it's just like one post, there are people that will check it out and will see it. How effective it is, that's up to the person as well. How many times are you putting it out on YouTube or Facebook? How many people are you friends with? So I don't know. I feel like it complicates it a little more, but still very effective at the end of the day.
I'd like to say to your question, Occupy Wall Street is a great example of what you presented. Because a lot of people were saying that Twitter, we got a new revolution, and they tweeting all over the place and blah, 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 and the major media came. However, I think we were leaving something out. Some people may say the elephant in the room, the gorilla, whatever. And that is, major media is no longer like it was 20 years ago, 30 years ago. They were independent. People that owned this media had objectives in terms of delivering news and information like that, and not so much controlling what's going out. In other words, today I think we have Tom Brokaw, and yesteryear you had, I think it was Channel 2, we had all the big news guys, and they were Walter Cronkite and all these kind of people. They were a little more independent. You can, I don't like to use this word, but I'm going to use it now. You could trust some of what they were saying. They weren't trying to skew you in a direction. They were trying to deliver the message, and you get it and you do what you want with it. Today, media is owned by big business. It's like the news department didn't make any money back in the day. But today, the news department has to make money, otherwise you're out of here. That being the case, it has become a fashion show. How good you look. You can't be too old if you're a woman. Guy can be old, he can still be there. But if you're a woman, you can't be too old, you can't be too fat, you can't be too skinny. It's turned almost into a what's it called? Like a comedy show. You're not really getting news. You have to go to social media, you have to go to newspapers, you have to search